So here we are, and we're live. It's another Wednesday. It's another MOOC office hours, and Michelle and Petra are here with me. And let us go to screen share. And we were just talking about what we might discuss this week, and also discussing how it's a relatively quiet time in the 1692 course because we don't have we have quizzes this week, and there's quiz 3 coming up on Thursday. But we don't have programming assignments, and the reason for that is not that we couldn't have some very exciting programming assignments on design patterns and on JavaScript, but it's more that this is the Berkeley course, and or at least the online course is based on the face-to-face Berkeley course, and in the face-to-face Berkeley course, everybody does projects, and so towards the end, it's kind of like the programming assignments kind of fall away with the assumption that everybody's working on their projects. And so that doesn't necessarily make so much sense for the MOOC, but that's the sort of legacy situation for the MOOC. But yeah, if you guys have any questions certainly on design patterns or on JavaScript, we can address those. Petra, it sounded like you had a question on design patterns.
Yeah, I don't understand dependency injection.
Right, indeed. So, well, let's have one of the solid principles. Let's have a look, shall we, at the book. Do you have a copy of the book?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got the section on dependency injection in there. Maybe let's see if we can think of some good examples for that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of a fancy, it's this fancy term, dependency injection. But the key thing here is the idea of having an additional abstract interface between them, so that they're not talking to each other directly, is the idea. Had you already been through this example in the textbook?
Yes, I have.
Michelle had, and it sounds Petra, you have, but it hadn't helped. Is that the?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I mean, I wonder if we can think of a different example in order to make that more clear. I guess the one of the things is that, and this is, I'm hoping to release an optional assignment tomorrow, which will be working on open source projects. I think one of the challenges in doing any of this stuff is ending up doing it out of context of bigger projects. We have lots of open source code, although I don't know that I can immediately think of a good example of us using dependency injection in that case. Maybe a very simple example of dependency injection might make more sense. I don't think that the word dependency injection just seems like it's not very helpful, or dependency inversion. I'm trying to think of what would be a good, if we could do like a simple. I mean, the example that Armando provides is this idea of, if we go to the slides associated with the, we do have the slides here. If we go to the slides associated with this, it's the example that he does is, with the mail services. So,
right.
There is the idea that you've got these other people like MailChimp or Constant Contact who are providing some sort of API which has got all these bells and whistles on it, and that he doesn't need all of the functionality of that for his app. And that if he wrote his app, to use specifically those methods that, one of these services provides, if those methods were to change, as services sometimes do, then that would sort of break his app. But so what he does here is he writes an intermediate class that represents email lists, and then he maps, the methods that he prefers to use, onto whatever they happen to be in MailChimp or Constant Contact, and what that means is it isolates his application from depending directly on the precise methods that MailChimp implements, if that makes sense.
So how do you know when you have a violation of it?
When you have a violation of the dependency inversion principle, I guess that would be in a situation where you've got your code being very tightly coupled to some external service. And so, you know, in the first instance, when you're just doing, for example, a spike or like tracer bullet, where you're just trying to prove that you can get something to work, then you know you don't want this complexity. If you're just trying to see, can I get the MailChimp API to work, you very much likely would code your customer class to work directly against those methods. But then once you'd established that it was working, and maybe you discovered that, you know, for the purposes of your project, you know, other APIs needed to be used, and you know, or you found that there was kind of heavy churn on, you know, this service in terms of the methods that the service was providing, then you might do a refactoring, which would be to extract out this intermediate class in order to say, you know, let's have that and put that, you know, in between. The, you know, other example that he goes through here is for the database. So, you know, you might well, you know, if you're using something other than Active Record, you could, I mean, many early web apps would have database-specific SQL in their view. I don't know if you're familiar with PHP. It was certainly very possible in a lot of early PHP apps and so on, that you had like a view with PHP, and then you'd have the, you know, you'd be trying to get some data from the database, and you'd have the SQL directly in the PHP view. Is that something that you're familiar with?
I've been only briefly exposed to PHP. I'm not real familiar with it now.
Yeah, I mean, I just wonder if I can. But so, for example, I mean, you don't particularly have to understand PHP to understand the principle. But so, for example, here, this is a bit of PHP here, right?
I can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it. Am I not doing screen share?
Just see a picture of your face.
Oh, really? That's odd, because I've got screen share on my side. Let me turn off the screen share and turn it back on again. Michelle, can you see my screen?
I was seeing it, but that was the same effect. After Petra said I can't see it, that was the same for me.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've just turned it off and turned it on again, the screen share. How about now?
Yeah, that's the same.
Oh, really? You're not seeing, you just see the little icon of me.
I see 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. I'm piled. I don't know how you do say that in English. Consult my dictionary.
I see a picture of Michelle, or her, not a picture, but her screen.
Petra, you can't see my screen at all?
Now I can.
No, you can. Okay. I mean, I also post the link that I went to, but
Yes, that's good.
yeah. So, I mean, at the risk of muddying the water, I mean, the details of how this PHP works is not particularly important. You can kind of think of it like ERB or HAML. It's, you know, where basically we can have bits of HTML. You can see here. Look, we've got, you know, here it's doing a query to the data. It's doing a, you know, this is in PHP. It's directly opening a query to the database, and it's doing SQL here, like select star from persons. And then we're also seeing bits of HTML in here, and it's all mixed in together, right? And this could be in a page. So, for example, here, yeah, they've just got it all. It's just all mixed up, and that, you know,
just a picture of your face again.
I'm sorry, say again.
You just have a picture of your face again.
Oh, that really sucks. It seems like I guess I can drop and rejoin the Hangout. I mean, you guys are both sharing video. Not that it's not lovely to see you. That may be affecting your ability to see my screen share. I'll you know, drop and rejoin the Hangout and see if that helps.
Okay.
But yeah, if you want to turn your video off, because I mean it's you know, a heavy bandwidth thing, there is the third button from the left. If you mouse over, you've got like invite people, mute microphone, turn camera off. That you know may help.
Well, now it's okay.
I've put the screen share on again. We've lost Michelle. I don't know if she was the other.
To turn my video off, for example.
Yeah. If you want to turn your video off, put your mouse over the Hangout, and there's a sort of little control panel that will pop up towards the top of the screen. That's a series of icons. I mean, on my screen share, you should be able to see it. It has 6 icons.
I cannot.
You cannot see the. Well, it looks like you turned your.
I see, but I cannot turn. Ah, yes, it is. But that's the same.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think you've been able to turn your video off. But so, can you both see my screen now? Okay.
Yes, it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyway, but either which way, the principle is that you could be writing code that mixes very closely the HTML and the SQL and so on, and you could in fact write Ruby code like this if you wanted to. I don't know if we have a good example of that. I
have if you want.
I'm sorry, say again.
I have one example because in my app I use sometimes directly PostgreSQL statement because I have not the equivalent in.
Yeah.
I can share if you want.
Yeah, no, I've got some here. Sure, but
this is the same, yes.
Do feel free to paste a link. I'd love to see it. I mean, I think I've got an example here.
Okay.
As well, though, which is here's an example of bits of Ruby with SQLite in it, and clearly at some level, like deep down in the bowels of Active Record, the Rubies are going to it's going to have to do something like that. But the point Petra was asking, how do you know when the dependency inversion principle or dependency injection principle is being broken? And it's when your system is very, very tightly tied to some external dependency. So if we go, I think, back and look at, do we have the?
You mean, for example, if we go to the level of the connection.
If we go to the level of the connection.
But for example, if we go only on the level of a statement, like a select statement or so.
Right.
This is not a violation.
Well, I mean, kind of yes and no. I mean, there's, and in each case, it's going to be a judgment call anyway about the level of dependency that you've got there. The point is that there's variation at the level of like different databases have different syntaxes of SQL. I mean, the select statement itself is pretty generic, and you can rely on that working. The more esoteric your SQL becomes, the more likely that it will break. But really, you're saying by having the SQL in there, you're having a dependency on there being a relational database. It might be that your application would want to use a NoSQL database like MongoDB or something. So if you have extracted, the dependency and you've injected some intermediate layer, then that's to your benefit in terms of changing how you do your persistence, which is databases are for persistence, but you might want to be able to persist in the future to flat files or whatever. So, but it would be a mistake to say, oh no, I've got this terrible dependency injection violation. I must immediately insert lots of abstractions so that I can have total flexibility in the future. You need to, in the very first instance, use what works in as a hand to get things done, and then, maybe over time, if you see the need for it, then you would inject these dependencies. But for example, if we're using Rails, then we're using dependency injection with active record. Active record by itself, provides, injects lots of intermediate dependencies. So we've got, we're using active records, and then it has adapters for different kinds of databases, and hopefully we don't get into the specifics SQL. I think if you're in the process of building a Rails app or software as a service, in the first instance, it's useful to understand dependency injection in terms of that's the technique that some of the underlying components are using. In the first instance, it's not something that you have to be constantly on guard for. Oh no, I've built a Rails app. Oh no, it's got too much, or I'm violating the dependency injection principle. I think it's more that, in discussion, as you do your Rails app and it evolves over time, then someone might come along or say, well, that's okay, we want to add another type of third-party service, this and adapt it for that, and then it's like, oh yeah, we could introduce an adapter here, and that will make the conversion easier in future because we're anticipating 3 or 4 more of these different services. I don't know if any of that explanation helps, Petra.
A little, yeah. I mean, there was adapter. What was the other two? Null object and proxy. What was the other ones? And
and so they've got these different other patterns, facade and adapter, which are just different ways of describing sort of the similar thing, really. Personally, I find, I taught workshops. I did workshops on design patterns. I mean, there's the Gang of 4 design patterns book, which I.
Who names the Gang of 4? I mean, that has negative connotations.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this was in academia where they were trying to be ghetto, I guess. I don't know. But this is Gamma, Helm, Johnson, and Lycides, and But so for many years, I ran workshops on the different design patterns, trying to sort of internalize them, trying to really get to grips with them. To be honest, I don't know. I mean, I think they're quite slippery things. They're quite, I think most people who are programming feel quite comfortable with loops and conditionals and control flow, and then there's object-oriented and so on, and you get all of those, and you want to move up a level, right? You want to say, right, what's the next sort of thing that we deal with that I can make my code better? And design patterns is one direction, but they're sort of slippery customers. To be honest, programming in Rails, I don't find myself, referring to the design patterns that much. I think we could certainly talk about how certain aspects of the Rails system embody in certain places different design patterns. But it's, yeah, I don't know. I think that I'm finding the solid principles, which include the dependency injection, although that's probably maybe from my point of view, maybe the least interesting one out of the 5. I'm starting to find that the solid principles are kind of more useful in my discussion with people and talking about the high level code, in that it's fairly, and I think maybe this is to review, seeing violation of the single responsibility principle is fairly easy, and if we find that our user class is doing login to Twitter and so on, then that's kind of we're having it do too many different things, and that should be pulled out. I mean, I guess since you asked about the dependency inversion, dependency injection, I guess the other of the solid principles for you are relatively clear.
Yeah, I understand them, but I just didn't know when you were in violation.
Sorry, you didn't know when
Dependency injection. I didn't know when you could tell you were in violation.
Oh right, how could you tell that you were actually in violation of the principle? Yes, but I think it's and with all of these things, I mean, the bottom line is you need your applications to work, and so all these design guidelines are, patterns, they're suggestions rather than, completely solid principles. It's solid. But yeah, so I think when the the summary there is that when you find that your system is very, very tightly tied to some third-party library or some third-party application, API, database, what have you, and that it would be that you're kind of being exposed to changes in that, then that's a situation where you're in some danger. But again, in each, you've got to take a judgment call about what's the likelihood of this system that I'm relying upon changing. Which based upon partly how well is it maintained, what other things are going on, based against what's the technical effort of introducing the dependency. A judgment call. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a little better now.
Great. I'm pleased to hear that. But I think that was that's an excellent question. I was very interested to. Was there anything else on the subject of design patterns that we would like to clear up?
The list curve, perhaps, because I don't understand very much what is it exactly.
Right. So the Liskov substitution principle,
Yes.
which is I'm not necessarily a huge fan of this example myself, actually. The idea is that it's all about these subclasses and subtypes, and so if we can ask for somebody to handle an object of a certain type, then we should also all of the we should be able to ask for a subtype to be handled as well. And we've got this example here of
yes,
where
that was so obvious for me. I don't understand. I'm a little like the man like the professor said in the video, that they don't understand why it is done, because that's obvious to me.
Well, I think the example that Amanda was saying is that when the person received the Turing Award for this, someone was saying, well, that's obvious, but I think that was but it's I think that the thing is that maybe this wasn't explicit, that this should be the case. I think the funny thing with this the rectangle and the square example is, I don't know that it makes sense to make a square extend from rectangle. I guess
exactly. For me, that is nonsense, this example. So I don't.
It seems to me that I think they're using it here in as much as that a rectangle is if you imagine sort of an inheritance hierarchy where you have a person and then you might have I don't know what would be a good thing to do. Or let's start with you might have a mammal, which is sort of a generic.
Yes.
Plot. And then you'd have specific types of mammals. So you'd have a bear is it has some of the properties of mammals, but it also has some additional properties. All of the things that are true for mammals, that it suckles its young, that it's hot-blooded, and so on. You can rely upon all of those properties of the parent being true for properties of the child. And so here with the square and the rectangle, I guess the idea is that the rectangle is a broader class of entities, of which a square is a it's a subset. It's a more specialized version of a rectangle. Although, it feels to me like this it would be more sensible to have rectangle being a subtype of square. Where it's an exception in a different direction. I don't know. It's.
I think maybe in Ruby that does not occur so often in another language, because frankly in Ruby, being able to subclass something which does not respect the superclass, I don't understand well. Or maybe I let it down, because I never seen in my life a class in Ruby, that does not respect this principle. So I thought perhaps I've missed something.
I don't think so. I think but we can construct you know, we can construct an example in Ruby where I mean, clearly if you override the behavior in a completely different way, then it's I mean, I guess it's sort of this idea of it destructively overriding a behavior. I mean, I think it's sort of, you know, in some ways here, this is a suggestion that the suggestion that I don't know, it's difficult, isn't it? I also don't like this example.
No, but let it down. That's clear for me now.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it. Yeah, sorry. Well, I was going to say it's sort of what you've got here almost is a code smell that is kind of indicating that rectangle doesn't make sense for rectangle for square to be a subclass of rectangle because it's not, you know, it's not sharing the properties. Like inheritance is specifically about reuse, and so if you're subclassing something, then you're doing that because you expect to reuse the properties of the parent, and if you're not reusing them effectively and properly, then that's suggesting maybe you should be using composition or a different kind of domain model in terms of, you know, using composition rather than inheritance. So yeah.
That's difficult. I find that's difficult sometimes to see the partition between aggregation and composition.
Well, I don't know. I think I'm not sure that what you mean by aggregation. I mean, there's a fundamental difference between inheritance and composition that's very important. That is the difference between composition and inheritance clear?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure what you mean by aggregation in this sense. I mean, aggregation...
In the UML sense.
Sorry, say again?
In the UML sense.
Oh, in the UML sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I personally try and stay as far away from UML as I possibly can.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know. Specific meaning for aggregation in UML that's intended to be different from composition. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I'm more oriented with database.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I guess I don't particularly find myself saying, oh yes, that's a Liskov substitution issue. So much. What have we got? There's injection there. Was that the last of the? I mean, the Demeter Principle is the one that you know, kind of comes up that's fairly clear. Basically, anytime that you've got kind of a series of dots where, you know, something is asking about too much detail through another, you know, like this kind of thing, is you know, I guess no self. That's just two dots there. Do we have a example?
From what I've seen in the video, well, that's okay when you use only the chain in views, for example, but no more when you use it in calculation or something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, there's, you know, all of these things. They're kind of, you know, I think even in the view, too many series of dots is kind of an issue. Although at the same time, if you've got some hierarchy that you're walking,
Yes,
and then
because I always apply delegation, so but maybe that's not reasonable to apply it all the time.
I mean, I think there's an argument in that the view is designed to traverse hierarchies. So if you're constructing an object for it to, but I guess even then, ideally, what you would have is rather than a very deeply nested series of calls through the data object, is you have a series of partials, and you would be, you know, merging each element of the partial with successive elements, and you still wouldn't see so many series of dots in any one view. But yeah, yes. I mean, I think all of these things, to me, are secondary to the process of actually building real things that work. And you know, a lot of these things are nice ideals, but their value or lack of it, you know, comes as a function of the extent to which you can use them in real projects to get stuff done that people care about. Unless there are other questions on design patterns, we could ask the question if there are about, I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the JavaScript yet.
Only done about the half part.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah. So, I mean, the other things, I mean, I think that there were additional questions last week that people were asking about, you know, the process of diving into the RSpec for the, you know, legacy homework 2. You know, I don't know. I don't know if you guys have got much interest into going into those.
Yes, why not?
We could do. I mean, the only other thing I guess I was going to mention the optional homework assignment that I'm thinking of hoping to release tomorrow is to have one on getting involved in the you know, doing some coding on remote pair programming on an open source project. But I guess
I really don't understand how it works. Huh?
No.
No, really not. So I've abandoned because.
No, sure. Yes. Now you've joined the Slack, right?
Yes.
Yes. But so, and did you even join us on one of the scrums?
I joined one time on a scrum. I did not understand half of it.
No.
I did not understand about. Yes, I understand about what it was, but it was so complicated, so difficult.
Well, I mean, I think that what people were doing is that they were reporting their activity. What happens in the scrums is people report the activities of what they've done on the individual projects, which one would not expect to understand until one had become familiar with the projects. But the idea with the scrum is that at the end of the scrum, there are people around, and if so, for example, if you, having browsed the projects, you've seen that you're particularly interested in one of them, and there's someone there who is, you know, involved in that project, even if you didn't understand necessarily very much about what they said about that project, that would be an opportunity to catch up with that person and say, oh, you know, could we look at the project together? And they may be, you know, having a pairing session that you can then observe to see, you know, what's going on with that project. But the idea is it's sort of a way of establishing contact with people who are working on the projects in order to start getting involved or finding out more about them.
It's so difficult.
Better than just diving in. I've tried just diving into open source some this week, and without any pair programming, and that's yeah, I think it would have helped if I'd done that.
Right, had pair programming in combination with the open source.
It's trying to figure out what the other person's thinking and with their project.
Yeah, yeah. So you're saying that would have been helpful if you'd had like real-time communication with the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what this, you know, Agile Benches is for, and I think that yeah, I mean, the challenge that we have, the challenge that any project, but particularly open source projects have, is the process that we might call onboarding, or people coming to speed and up to speed with understanding what the project is about, how the code works, you know, and how to start contributing.
The only one I see, but I don't see it in Slack, is the ESA books. Maybe I can do something here, but that's really the only one I see. But I don't see it in Slack.
Well, I think that if you look in the Slack, I don't know if Petra has access to the Slack. At the channels, there would at the bottom of this list here, it would say like, you know, 2 more or what have you, and you can see the other channels that exist. I mean, this ESAS 169 MOOC is not. That's just a general channel for discussion related to the course. But there's, you know, yeah, I mean, there's channels for the projects. I mean, I guess arguably what we...
You see here, there is a ISAS textbook. Because I really worked all the example and the project also. And there are problems with it.
Oh yes, no, there's problems.
Oh here I can really help, if there is need to help.
Oh right, yes, no, yeah, okay, that as a project.
I don't see it
yes.
in Slack.
Yes, yes. We can discuss the textbook and so on. Yes, I mean that's something I'm going to be working on over the summer, although potentially I'm going to be in a different time zone as I'm doing it. But yeah, I mean what we do have for each of the projects. So for example, we've got, for example, local support. We've got the project overview, and there's a 7-minute video of me from a little while ago, you know, talking through what the project is about, you know, links to the references and so on. I mean, it's. Hi there, I'm Sam. I mean, I guess the maybe what we need is, I mean, the scrums have become, because we've got now a number of different projects. The scrums have become very generic, so they're not necessarily the easiest place to start. But I guess what people need to some degree is an introductory meeting that says, right, here's how this all works and how to get involved and this, that, and the other. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll maybe try and create some more videos on that. Did you guys have any other questions about Agile Benches or the projects or anything?
No, except that I'd like to be involved in, but I don't see how. So
yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, the thing would be just to well, I mean, the mechanism would be to keep attending scrums and keep trying to pick up what's going on. And so, like for example, you know, we have after the scrums, people pair on programming on these projects. And so, for example, you know, today after the scrum, David and others paired on the website one project, and they posted the
Yes, but I don't know what is the Talk Gadget project.
You don't know what this project is, the website one?
Yes, that's a problem.
No, well, the website one project is this website. It is the Agile Benches website itself. But, you know, like, at least from my point of view, like, if I didn't know what it was, I could go, like, the links that appear here are links to Hangouts like this one with lots of friendly people, and you could say, oh, I'm interested, you know, what's the website one project? And lovely people like David, who's a good friend of mine, also here in the UK, would, I'm sure, be extremely happy to you know, tell you and so on and so forth. I mean, there's, you know, we have the, you know, descriptions of website one in the project section of here, and so if we looked at the overview document for this, but yeah, I mean, you know,
so I should visit this one, Agile Venture, and go through all the project to see what it is exactly.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, that's clearer now.
Yeah. It's all free and it's all open and anybody can look at it. And yeah. Yeah.
This is better than going to GitHub, which is what I did.
Right. Right. That's the idea here. Is that what we've got to an extent is, you know, not all of these projects are active, and we need to better flag which are the active ones. But we do have a number of active ones, which in particular are AutoGrader's website. Where in fact, you know, you can basically the things at the bottom of the list are the older projects, and they are the ones that tend to be more active. So, but you're always welcome to. I mean, basically, it will always have it will always have a timer here. And in fact, actually, so there's going to be a scrum. You know, the Americas Scrum, which I guess maybe I could ask. You know, I could ask the Scrum Master to come and run the Scrum in this session, if you were interested in seeing how a Scrum worked, and then I could hang around and help answer questions for what's going on. Did they start their Scrum already?
Yes, but it's at 3 in the morning for me.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. This one, I actually, it looks like that we've missed. So it looks like the Scrum did. Sorry, it started 15 minutes ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like misreading. Right, and this is the much later Scrum. that one often doesn't necessarily happen because we don't have people. We need to find people to run that one for us. Yes, that might have been a better idea if I could have done that. Anyway, there we go. I mean, if you guys are, I guess we could look at. I'll go and get the virtual box. We could go and look at the homework too, and or the legacy homework too, and try and look at how we dive into the RSpec for that. If I could find a working thing there. But you guys both completed the legacy homework too, and
Yes.
we're reasonably satisfied with the solution. We could just.
Got 100. Is that good enough?
Sorry, say again.
Got it?
You finished it.
Yes.
I think Petra was making a joke there that I missed. It sounded like it would have been funny. Sometimes it's difficult to hear what's going on. It's a shame we're not with better audio. But I was just going to go and look at what were the questions that people were asking last week that I missed. So we go and look for Office. That was last week's one, where people were asked. So John was saying, "I'd like to see focus on the communication between the view and the controller, routing, partials, parameter passing, and so on." I think the BD is well explained. It'd be good to focus on this real view on the TDD RSpec aspects of the homework.
Actually, I didn't do real well on the testing part. I got the answers to add the functionality, but the testing part I didn't do real well on.
No, right.
I didn't grade that.
Yeah, and that is something that the grader doesn't particularly test on this homework, unfortunately. But we could go and have a look at. So there we are with a version of typo here. What's that? Is the temp directory. If we go and I've got another 2 windows there. That's the typo in the temp directory. So I wonder if we've got. Running the tests in here already. I believe that. So if we look at the features, and it's the merge article feature, so we could quickly run here bundle exec. We don't want rake, we want. And then merge article. And yes, I think that was the point that I got to, was that we had this, we should have a failing test there, and of course, show the launchy gem working there. So this is the failing test we've got. In here, we've got no view element there that we're expecting, and we've got the failing. So we haven't got the merge with 3 there. So that's the situation if we're driving it there, where we need to go and add thing to the form for that page. And so the first tricky thing is sort of working out where in the system that is. And it sort of takes some playing around, I think, before we work out that we've got some sort of, it's admin, we've got shared. Is that the edit thing that's then rendering, is it even the content, I forget.
The form.
Yeah, so the form, and that form exists. I think that's the form in here. Yeah. So, and that's being rendered by. Yeah, I mean, this is almost the trick, isn't it, to walk into that. But that, if we run the key thing really here, anytime going into your Rails app, is to use the roots and to try and work out how we're getting there. And so I think it's here. It's like admin content edit ID, which I don't know if I've got. Have I got typo running in one of these? There we go. That looks like that was where I was running the same thing previously, and maybe this is the one where I was running. Oh, that was just me playing around with the view of the system. Let me get one of those. Then we can just run this Rails there, and we'll have a look at the. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, that's that one. It's deployed. Yeah. So okay, this is the same page there. So we've got admin content edit 1, and so that is matching directly to. Do I have the rate routes in? Let's run in there. Did I not just run rate routes? I'll run it here. But so yeah, so we've got admin content edit 1 is the page that we want to edit, and so we've got admin content edit 1 there, and that tells us that the controller involved is admin content. So we can look in here and say admin, look in the controllers, admin content controller, and so we end up, you can see the big legacy app, lots and lots of bits and pieces. So we should expect to find, oops, wrong button, edit in there, and so we can see that this is the method that's being called there, and it's going to call new or edit. So we want to look for that somewhere else, and new or edit ends up being this, and we can see new or edit in there, and it's the new template that's being rendered there. So this is the key place here, and so that's then we see admin shared edits. So that goes and gets this partial, which in turn comes back and pulls in this form, which is painfully complicated. I'll be the first to agree. But so we're going from there, and so the first thing we then sort of have a question of what is a sensible place to put our little form that we're going to have for the merging, and clearly we can't put it inside the form here because it will end up being inside the form tag there. I think it's not clear to me where else this shared edit might be being referred to. There we could, can I do a search? We've got admin shared edit. We could do a search.
It is called in page also.
Right.
In page.
Can we do a? So in RubyMine this would be much easier. But what we might want to do for something like that is I always get the grep commands the wrong way around. But if we do grep, it's pattern and then it's the file. So we could do. Oh, no, that's not what I want. Like this, and I think those might have to be escapes. But so we could look for that pattern, and we could look for it specifically in app views there. And I always get the grep thing wrong. Is it supposed to do? I need to do -R. Oh, there we go. Okay. So yes, so as you were saying there, Michelle, but just to show the command line that might. So that's being in a. It's interesting. See, and I'm not sure there whether admin pages should be a place where we should be allowed to merge the article or not. But it seems
that makes the specs fail. That's made for failure. If you put it so that it captures the idea of pages, it makes 4 failures.
Yeah. So
I'm trying, so I can say.
Well, right. That was what you experienced. I think it's fairly clear to me that it seems like we want to have that form in here, and I guess it's just a question. whether we want to have the form 4 in there or not.
Do not put it here.
You say not putting it in the new here?
No, I made a partial and I put it in share edit.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know, and
because you don't have to have it in new. Huh? That's part of the homework. It should not be seen in new. It should be only in edit.
Yes, I guess we've got the issue that we see this page, but if we put it in edit, it's going to be seen in new anyway.
With a conditional.
Right, but the thing is, if we put it in edit, then in principle it appears in these other.
No.
Like
If you make a conditionals of the ID that the how can I say?
Yeah, I mean clearly we could add a condition.
That the user is an admin. It does not appear because it appears on page only if the user is not an admin.
Sure.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So that's good also. But I did not put a form. I put a partial. I put a render partial, and I put a form, the partial inside content.
Yes, I mean I think, you know, for me here trying to do the simplest thing, I will be tempted to put, you know, it into this new page. I mean, just because yeah, but there's always the danger that we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves in terms of trying to anticipate where things should go and so on. And at the moment, you know, I'm focused on just getting that initial cucumber test to pass. So I would be tempted here to have a form. I'm not sure necessarily that I even know what the action should be yet. You know, if I introduce another partial now, maybe ultimately I do want to do that, but that's another layer of complexity. That's one more thing that might, you know, might go wrong. So is it like this? I do. And what we want here, what have we gone for in our tests? Get rid of these gem files, merge article feature. So we're trying to fill in something that's, I think it's ID merge with 3. So we've got ID merge with, and then we're trying to press merge. So we've got inputs type and so if we save that, then in principle we should be able to just check if we reload this one and go down. Yeah, so we get a little element there that has some of the things, and we could rerun our test to see if that now does what we expect, and we're kind of avoiding the view spec in this regard. I recently had somebody suggesting to me that a better way to go is to remove, not even bother with controller specs, but that's another point of view there. And so here now, okay, so those are now working, and so now we're expecting, you know, an article to have the body like so. And so here we now get to the point of like, what's the action that should be called at this point in order to do the merge? And so we've got no particular action there. I'm thinking here, like, so this, we've got a format tag here which sets up a form action. I guess we could be using a form tag here. I don't know that I feel comfortable there, but we've got a form. I'm not even sure that I'm familiar with this form underscore action in here. I guess from this page we could, I think the different ways I've done it in the past, I wonder if we can come in here and just, it's a bit hacky, but go in here with, do we get access to form action there? I don't know if we do. It's an interesting question. I just sort of want to experimentally hit that and see what happens. It may break completely. Yeah, we don't have that variable defined in that context. But so we do have form action available in the underscore edit there, but we don't have it available. So we have it available in the shared context, but not in the new context there. Ah, okay. So that was because it was defined here. Okay, so form action there is set up to be action new ID article ID and so on. So, see, I'm tempted there to think about our root that we're. I mean, let's also have a look at. Let me remove that for a second. What's the let's see what the form itself up here has going on. So it'll form there. It's going to admin content new /1. And so I think if I go back and look at the rake routes again, so that seems like that's the admin content path there. So I think we could do a quick version of this that said admin and then we grabbed kind of, can we pop, yeah. One of it will let me just grab that and pop that. And like so. So you don't like controller, admin content, and action new ID. That's interesting because admin content, action and ID. If we're not allowed to use the paths in here. So it's going there for form action as that. And it's doing it for form 4. Well, maybe the path of least resistance here will be to follow the mechanism of using the form tag. Oh well. To make that as simple as possible. I'm still only just coming to terms with form tags, but so that seems to imply, if that's working, that let's grab that. What I really want to get onto is like actually writing some RSpec rather than mucking around with this, but let's get rid of that. But we need to have something connected so that we can sort this out. So we've got a new form there. Okay. So now we've got some. I thought I'd copied that exactly from. That's your form tag. You're working in there. We don't have reference to a class name. So that's not very dry what I've done there. No, I don't know that. And so it's basically after the ID, if we've got some additional. In there, so therefore do have an extra. Okay, now you're back to saying we don't have form action defined. Okay. So that form action, okay, let me just... Oh dear, so form type, something else. Don't think we need an ID on our form. We can, and we don't need that encoding tag either, or that. Let's...
The class with something.
Yeah, I don't think we need any of those. Okay. Okay, so that's working now. And let's inspect element. So now we've got a form here, and it's admin content new 1, and it's going to do a post, and it's going to come. So that's, we can now, for example, go back into our content controller, and so that's going to come into new, wherever that is. Yeah, which is going to hit new or edit. They're all going to hit new or edit coming in there. And so we've got a situation here where, you know, we don't necessarily want to do all of the other things. I mean, there's sort of like a process here of overloading this existing method, which is not necessarily, you know, the best way to do it. Like maybe sensibly we want to you know, use a different method, but you know, we also, in terms of using this form, we want to be able to like sort of display the correct results afterwards. But and I think I'm not going to take this all the way through the end. But so here, for example, if we were coming, I mean, what I might be tempted to do is put the debugger in there, and then, and assuming that we've got the gem file available, so we've got, let's check we've got debugger in there.
We debug this now, but I'm not sure it works. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that does. I think we would need. So there, yeah, we've got debugger there. We might need to just restart the app and rerun that, like so. And then I would hope, like, I don't know, reload the page, but if I put in some ID there and I say merge, I would hope that we end up on the debugger there. So here I the params, and we could see there we've got action new, ID1, controller, admin content. We're not receiving the merge with information, which I would hope to be receiving at that point. Which does not bode well. So we've got the form tag as doing what we expect. I wouldn't have thought that I needed to.
But you have put action new, so that's no more. That it does not.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The action new is not going to wipe out other things associated with it. I mean, we could change that to be a different action and then do a redirect. But I think here what it's just like, have I would have thought that it would be, usually if I've clicked a button, it's going to be giving me the data about the, you know, which button I clicked and other fields that come through there. I don't know if there's something I've done wrong in here about this. Is it? It's type text.
Text filter.
If I go here and I do HTML inputs, yeah. No, right. So I need to. I haven't. What I've failed to do there is I've failed to put a name on it. So we could do like merge ID. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the problem. Over here, that'll probably be some sort of failure. Let's see. Yeah. If I go back, reload that page. Oh, is that also going? So now, okay, maybe if I reload the page and now, so So that's if we, that will allow the page to load, and then we'll put some value in there and we'll say merge again, and then you should get stuck in here and you should be able to see params. Yeah, so then we get merge ID. I mean, we've got, there's different options here in that we could be kind of checking for the merge ID. We could be creating a completely new method rather than coming in via new, but I guess what I was just thinking of doing was showing the dropping off point here. So we one of the key in terms of where we, the temptation is to carry on coding here and just keep on hacking at it and to keep on, testing it through the interface. But the preferred approach is to now go into our spec, and if we look at our controller spec for admin content controller, then we start to look at places like if we're looking here for, is it new or edit? Got new. So we've got things like shared examples for the first time for a new example, second time for a new example, published article, and so on. Insert. We've got the edit in there. Oh, dear. Edit. Good edit. So yeah. So I think that the this is, when I've done this homework, I've always.
For example, for admin, this one.
Sorry, say again.
That is a share example for admin. If you go a little up, you see this.
Yeah, with the admin connection. But I think for me.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So the in the clearly we don't want non-admins to have access to this. But to me, that's a kind of complicating thing that we push off until later when we can. Does this not let me scroll? That it does. So we've got like describe edit action. So I would be tempted to come in here and start with the describe merge to there, and so think about it. I'm sort of leaning towards should be thing. And be saying merge, and then I guess we've got. See, we're going to have two things coming in, which is that we've got the merge ID. So we kind of need to create like a a second article here. So we could have like a merge article, like so. And so we've kind of got like ID, and then we've got merge ID. Is at merge ID, like so, and then we can basically build here not similar. I think it's very difficult to go up and down in this file, but so we can build a test here. This is not dissimilar to our there we go, and like so. And what we would sort of extend it to do is to we can effectively rebuild a somewhat similar test at this level that's sort of checking independently of the interface whether this GET request will lead to the appropriate response. And we could also be checking that the the merged article is deleted and so on, and so that's line 485 there. So if we were to go into, is that also, that one's actually entirely the wrong place, isn't it? If we do, I have to do Control-Shift-T, don't I? Let's get to a new one there. So if from here we were to do bundle exec, then we run, where are we in here? Spec controllers, admin, content controller, spec controllers, admin, content controller, line 485. that's not a, but what have I done there wrong? Bundle exec, oh, and I need RSpec as well. So, and that would run that specific test. And anyway, this is, you know, this is sort of the dropping off point. This is, I think this is one of the key challenges in all of this. There we go, it's right, and it's giving me, control spec 485, I'm getting something that doesn't have an ID. It's 485. Online 485. It should be, I would have thought it's one of these ones. Murder or factory article, 405, control 4 split. I'm surprised there that that doesn't let me do in this. I could just for the moment, let's just put some arbitrary numbers in and check that we can at least get a failing test of some description. But so this is sort of the jump-off point at which, you know, we stop driving with the Cucumber code and we move over. And so what's happened here? Can I even see where the? Yeah, there we go. And then what's actually the undefined method get for that class? What have I done there that would be? Oh, I no.
That's supposed, no?
I think what I've done here is it's a novice mistake. It should. I failed to wrap it in a should block. Let's pop that. 20, 10, yeah. Okay. But yeah, is that, you know, we would get a failure here, and potentially we could start implementing and stub out, you know, a model component. There we go. Yes. So yeah, validation failed on the uniqueness thing there. But so, I mean, this is the point that we would, you know, start moving forward with the RSpec, and, you know, we might, you know, end up stubbing the model. So we could, for example, we do things like we want to stub. You know, if we were thinking that you know, that it's merge ID like this, then before we call it, in order to stub out the controller from the interaction with the model, we could say something like this. We can do expect. Well, we can say something like, and it's going to lead to article. You know, find by ID. With we want to return merge article. So we would sort of, I mean, I think if we just, can we just comment this one out here for the minute? Oh, I can't. That's annoying. Merge steps, path, really that. Where's my spec then? That's it. I would have to go and find. That's so annoying. Let me just take that out for a second. But so, you know, rather than necessarily, you know, going into our content controller and immediately writing here that we should say something like, you know, merge article. You know, and then we've got like and we'd have this like in some block where we start. I mean, this is the tempting, right? Is to start building the code that we need. I'm not saying this is necessarily the best place to build this code, but the idea is that rather than building that code there, and it's so frustrating that I can't. Oh, can I just do that? And rather than building that code there, is that we should be. I can do this. Just remember the keyboard shortcut. That we should be sort of saying in advance what it is that we're planning to do there. So that if we run that test, like so, rather than this failing on the things that happen after, which we're maybe not so worried about, or we're not sure about now, we can stub out the interaction with the model and get it to work there. So did I not save that? Oh, I changed the number of the part. So this is now still on 485. We've got article should receive there, we'll merge. Yeah, 486. Okay. Content control without having connection, merge action should merge article. Yeah. Active record. Okay. I guess it's giving me a problem here with. It's only allowing me to create one article. Can I do that with a different? Oh, let's just remove that for the moment and do this to kind of make the point, if we can. Everybody remembers the Highlander films. Clearly the person who's writing typo does. But so, no, you're not going to let me do that either. Great. Oh well. That seems bizarre. So I've saved that. I've got this. I'm doing article should receive. All those things. That was the only other change that I made. I mean, I guess they've got like a complex setup here for that it should behave like all these different things. We've got publisher connection, we've got admin connection, index new and destroy. That doesn't affect us here.
Yes, but it at the top of the file there are share example for all the also
Sure.
it behave like extra. Seems the way.
It's coming in here. It seems to be creating a problem there in that it's this before operation of the factory blog thing here. It seems to be upset that, and I've done that. I've added a describe merge action. We've got describe edit action, and down here we've got describe resource add action, resource move action, and various other things. And it's now throwing an error here when I sort of assumed that it wasn't throwing it before. I mean, I guess sensibly what I should be doing is removing that test and running 466 here to check that these things pass in advance of me having made any modifications to them, which is a good thing to have done before getting started on anything like this. Let's just see if those things... Yeah, so actually it looks like I've got all my tests failing at the moment for some reason.
Yes, you should rerun DB test prepare.
Yeah, you're probably right. Shot myself in the foot there because I've got the debugger still running on there. But I wouldn't have thought that had too much to do with it. Let's just run that again. Anyway, I don't know if it, like, for all of my stumbling around there, I don't know that that makes the idea of, you know, where we get into the RSpec testing any clear. Okay, so that seems to have sorted that out. So if we pop that back in, and we now run at 485.
I suppose you have also to rerun DB test prepare. Not sure.
I mean, I think that, okay, there we go. Oh, really?
Yeah, I think you have to rerun DB test prepare.
No, I've done that already. I think here I've got the article.
I wonder if you have not intervented the ID in the form.
No, I think that's entirely unrelated to this here. In that I'm working on this test spec, specifically. Here we go. Yeah. So this is the test. This is I just the problem. The previous problem there was I had missed out the underscore. But so this is me stubbing article to expect certain things to happen. I've kind of gone with merge there. If I do the new, it'll get the error that I kind of wanted to show, which is this mechanism of describing the code that we wish we had rather than just writing it. So I guess the problem, yeah, I'm going to need to do it with merge. I go and just pop in a merge method here. I mean, we also want to avoid new methods at the moment because it's not so restful. But at least the principle of the thing is that we define the code that we wish we had. So here we would like, assuming that someone was trying to merge with article ID 6, we would say, yes, let's make sure we grab a article with that ID, and here we're returning our double, rather in order to make the test run faster by going through the database. And so, and now you're saying the action merge could not be found for admin content controller, and I guess it's just not going to be my day. I guess in that, yeah, if we want to have a merge operation, then go on. Not do it for me with
that's strange because you have a get and I have
I think that the problem there is what I don't have a route for it, so it won't look it up directly. I think the problem with me calling new here is that it's going through. I think let's just stick with new, and if I go back to if I grab the article ID here, like so. I think this one will hopefully show the error that I was hoping to show, but I guess I need to prepare. But I don't know. I find this homework so frustrating. Okay, there we go. So this is the error that I'm finally going in. It's saying here that it expected, that we received this, but we didn't receive it. And so then, if I was to, even though we don't have an article ID with 6, I can then do something like this, and then that's the code that I wish that I had. And if God has mercy on my soul, then He may allow this one to pass. Like so, no, it didn't work. No. But so we're calling new, which would then come to call with, and I'm going for if params merge with, and I think I know what I've done here. I've probably given that my merge ID rather than merge with. So finally, if we're lucky, this will pass, and I will put this one to bed for the moment. Yeah, there you go. So I don't know if that helps elucidate the process of driving with these RSpec tests. I think clearly my various missteps there have not necessarily helped in the point that I was trying to make there. But so at least this is the point that one jumps off from the cucumber test and then gets into working out where are we going to where are we going to do things here? And I think there it's sort of like we could create a new route for the merge, but it seems maybe simpler to carry on overriding this new already. And one of the difficult things with the legacy code base at this extent is it's very difficult to know where to add new functionality because you don't have a fantastically clear picture of everything that's going on. But I could now, going forward, extend this with, okay, I can stub out the other things that should happen, and then I can come in with some expectations about what the article should look like, and get this test to pass, driving the creation of that functionality here, and then subsequently I can write my model tests to fill in the flip side of other things that I might call subsequently, which is I might, have here an expectation that we would have, I can sort of stub. Actually, we could look at what does it do here. At some point here, yeah, it's going like, I could stub this thing out here, so that the article itself there, and it makes more sense to move that later, but I could then carry on by saying something along the lines of article should receive get or build article with article ID, and I can have that and return, a different article, but you hopefully see the general gist of it there. And so by doing that, I think it did. So if we say so, that's finding the merge article, sends the article, and so we can then, kind of insert, and then we would sort of have an expectation. We might say that at and this is the process of, we're sort of describing what the controller should be doing there. Although, as I say, I mean, some professionals I've been talking to recently have been saying, they feel that the having controller specs is maybe surplus to requirements. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a sort of a big reach here to sort of stub this so precisely, and I think I'm starting to lose my conviction that controller specs are the way to go. It would seem in some ways, if you can keep your controllers as lean as possible, and then just do all of your testing on your models, that's maybe a good middle path. But anyway, I don't know if that's at least if we are following the sort of the course approach, which is like we don't do view specs, we do controller specs, then this is the kind of thing that we can do to, as Amanda demonstrated previously, this is the kind of thing we can do to set up expectations about how our controller should behave, and then describing the code which we had, and then we would carry on implementing that in here. Any other? I was thinking like Aris came and left. Any other thought? I guess I'll have to leave it there. I can maybe pick that up again on another occasion. Any further questions or thoughts about the course? I didn't have an update on the.
I'm just glad you didn't test this on the test on the last program.
You wonder why I what? Sorry.
Huh?
Say again.
I said I'm glad you didn't test on the last program.
You're glad I didn't run the tests on the last program?
Didn't test on the autograder. Didn't test the tests on.
Oh, okay, right. Yes. Yeah. I think that's it's perhaps an oversight, but one that many people are perhaps grateful for as well. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, the plan is to do this again this time next week. So maybe see you there and see others. Do feel free to join any Agile Ventures Scrum, and I'll do my best to help show you. I mean, if you're in the if we look at the list here, we've got I usually on Monday to Friday I'm running the Euro Scrum and the Atlantic Scrum, and I'll do my best to make you feel welcome and answer any questions. But the other Scrum Masters will. There's a regular Russian guy doing the American Scrum and a British friend of mine doing the Eurasia Scrum. The Pacific Rim Scrum, we're looking for somebody to run those. But that's a good time to be. But yep, I think we'll leave it there. All right. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you again next week, maybe.
All right.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Welcome. Bye for now.